Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue à la séance de conseil du 21 mars. Après 4 mois, je crois, on est ici au retour au centre communautaire. Bientôt, c'est bien de voir des faces. I'd like to welcome Mrs. Levitin, who's going to be joining us tonight instead of Mrs. Bilodeau, who is away on vacation. So, welcome. Before we start with the council, I just would like to take a moment to discuss the situation in Ukraine. You know that this is a situation that the whole world is watching and is a terrible situation. Here in Dorval, we've decided to raise the flag, and shortly we're going to have a minute of silence, and I hope that everyone takes the opportunity to reflect on the war that's going on. Before we do that, though, I just j'aimerais peut-être juste mentionner que récemment, on voit beaucoup plus de sites sur les réseaux sociaux qui demandent pour de l'argent, faire des dons, et je recommande à nos citoyens de faire très attention où ils font leurs dons. Moi, je crois fortement dans la Croix-Rouge et les efforts qu'eux autres ils peuvent faire et les Docteurs sans frontières. Avant de donner des sous à un organisme qu'on ne connaît pas, peut-être c'est important de faire un petit peu de recherche. So I just, in English, I'd like to add that it's important that people be aware that, you know, not everyone has, but, you know, there are people out there who will pry on the vulnerable, and so I suggest that if you would like to make a cash donation, you should do so to a recognized group like the Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders. On top of that, in the coming weeks, the Séance de l'Ouest de l'Île will also be working with the cities on the West Island to harmonize efforts as they are awaiting refugees to possibly come to the West Island, to be placed in locations or in homes in the West Island. And when this happens, then we will reach out to the public in our community to see how our residents would be able to help. And this will be very targeted requests for specific items that the Séance de l'Ouest de l'Île will be asking. And we've had this discussion with all the cities on the West Island, so I'm sure everybody is going to take part in this. So with that being said, let's start today's session. Let's start with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Merci. So I'd like to start. On aimerait commencer l'ouverture de la séance du conseil ce soir. Est-ce qu'on a un proposeur? Je propose, monsieur le maire. Secondaire, merci.
Deux changements.
Oui.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, nous avons un retrait du point 8D. So we remove item 8D from the agenda and we add item 4V, agreement in principle, proposition of the occupation of lot 1524170, which is Marina Pointe Picard. Donc, ajout du point 4V à l'ordre du jour, accord du principe. Donc, accord de principe, proposition de bail d'occupation du lot 1524170 pour la Marina Pointe-Picard.
Merci. On va commencer la période de questions, mais avant qu'on commence, je vais juste expliquer que ce soir, c'est la première séance où on a demandé au public de nous envoyer leurs questions par notre site Web. Et je remercie tout le monde qui a fait exactement ça. Je pense qu'on a eu à peu près 9 personnes qui ont fait ça. So the way we're going to handle this situation tonight is that everyone who sent in a request, a questionnaire via the website will be asked to read their question if they're in the room, or we can read it for them. And if you're not in the room, then we will read the question and answer the question as well. Once the 9 questions, une fois que les 9 questions sont répondues, là, je sais qu'il y a du monde dans l'Assemblée, dans la Chambre, qui n'a pas envoyé leurs questions. Eux autres, ils auraient la chance de poser 3 questions. Et après ce point-là, si tout le monde a fini leurs 3 questions, là, le conseil va décider si on va extensionner la période de questions pour que tout le monde ait une chance peut-être poser une 4e question, s'ils veulent. Donc, j'ai besoin d'un proposeur pour la période de questions. Je vais proposer. Appuyeur? Yes. All right. Is Mr. Ronald Goes in the room? No?
Then I'll read that question.
Go ahead.
All right, so this question, the first one we received, comes from Mr. Ronald Goes from 1425 Avenue, Kingsley. And the question subject is potholes in the circle, and the question reads, "It seems that the potholes in the circle reappear every spring. The area from the exit of the bus terminal to the entrance seems very weak. This area was done very recently, and still the damages occur. We need that area redone with 8 inches concrete and 4 inches asphalt overlay. This cannot continue. A more permanent solution needs to happen." So thank you for the question, Mr. Goes, and absolutely. I think everyone who drives through the circle realizes the craters that we have to navigate when traveling through it. So the Dorval Circle is unfortunately not the City of Dorval property. It falls under the Minister of Transport of Quebec. And I think they do a decent job of trying to get in there and fill potholes as they occur. We also forward information. So anytime, if anyone encounters a pothole that isn't within the area of the City of Dorval, we do still make a point to inform the MTQ so that they can fix it as quickly as possible. The challenge we have is that in the springs that we see more and more of, because of the freeze-thaw cycles, we can't use hot asphalt, so it has to be cold asphalt. The cold asphalt fills the pothole, but as soon as there's another freeze-thaw cycle, all the cold asphalt falls out of it. So, I mean, I appreciate the suggestion. I think that's something that we can certainly ask the MTQ about. But unfortunately, it's the actual improvements that you're recommending is something that we wouldn't be able to apply to the circle.
Thank you, Mr. Von Rorts. The next question, la prochaine question est de M. Marc Foissy. Il est dans la chambre? Non? Il a envoyé 3 questions. Bonjour, le parc Saint-Charles possède un accès à l'eau derrière ma maison. Environ 150 pieds avant cette partie se retrouve une zone de gazon inondée à chaque printemps et extrêmement mou tout le long de l'été. Tellement que les tondeuses n'y s'aventurent pas à risque de s'insiler. Question, comment allez-vous réussir à construire un chemin pavé? Je ne sais pas où ça vient. Je ne sais pas si quelqu'un vous a dit qu'il va y avoir un chemin pavé dans cette section du parc. Donc, peut-être c'est possible que vous parlez, M. Foissy, de la phase 2 de la rénovation du parc Saint-Charles. Et si c'est ça, on n'est pas à ce point-là encore. Ça va, ces discussions-là vont être planifiées pour 2023. Donc, peut-être, si je n'ai pas répondu à la question, vous pouvez communiquer avec moi demain matin à l'hôtel de ville. Question 2, tranquillité. Depuis plusieurs années, il y a des petits groupes de jeunes qui passent la soirée à prendre la bière et fumer du pot sur le bord de l'eau, et au bord de l'eau, au bout de l'accès du parc, tellement qu'il fallut intervention policière à plusieurs reprises et l'installation de barrières que la patrouille doit barrer tous les soirs à 20 heures. Monsieur Trudeau, est-ce que c'est 20 heures ou 10 heures? 20 heures ou 22 heures?
Oui. La fermeture du parc s'effectue selon la cédule des patrouilleurs et ils essaient que ce soit entre 10h et 10h30. Et l'ouverture se fait le lendemain matin vers les 6h du matin.
Bon, ça c'est pour la clôture.
Oui.
Donc, M. Foissy, ça c'est l'horaire pour la clôture. Je sais qu'il y a peut-être des jeunes qui sont dans nos parcs. C'est pas simplement les parcs Saint-Charles, ça peut être n'importe quel parc. Et notre patrouille tous les soirs dans les parcs. C'est sûr qu'il ne peut pas être partout en même temps, tout le temps, mais ils passent régulièrement à travers la ville, côté nord, dans l'est-ouest, et ils font leur mieux pour éviter des regroupements dans le parc. Donc, j'espère que ça répond à la question. Question 3, perte de valeur. Ma maison est située au bout du parc, directement au coin de l'accès d'eau. Cette partie est environ 15 pieds de large et quand il n'y a pas des passants, c'est comme ils étaient dans ma cour, quand il y a du monde qui se promène alentour, j'imagine. Écoute, je comprends que... Oh, excuse, je vais continuer. La question était, est-ce que la Ville envisage l'éventualité que les résidents entameront des démarches pour qu'elle assume la dépréciation de leur maison pour cette perte de quiétude? Donc, je pense que la réponse à ça, c'est que, écoute, on essaie de faire le plus possible pour éviter que les jeunes ne fassent pas le party dans les parcs. La clôture se barre, comme M. Trudeau nous a expliqué, la patrouille les parcs. Est-ce que votre maison perd une valeur à cause de ça? Je ne crois pas. Je pense que même le fait qu'elle est près d'un parc peut-être ajoute à la valeur, parce que là, il y a certaines personnes qui aiment ça. Mais je comprends que les jeunes peuvent faire du bruit et on va faire notre possible et on va viser avec M. Bobo que la patrouille, maintenant qui devient plus beau, se passe plus fréquemment. So, merci, M. Foissy, pour vos questions. Et encore, vous pouvez m'appeler demain si vous avez d'autres questions. Question numéro 3 de Mme Irene Williams. No?
I'm going to read it for her. So the question comes from Irene Williams of 545 Grams Boulevard. Question is concerning building located at 560 Graham Boulevard. What are the plans for this residential building? The plans that were submitted were for a multi-generational dwelling. As of today, the plans have been withdrawn by the owner of 560 Graham. So nothing will happen as of now.
No, she'll, if she wants to continue her project, she'll come back she'll have to return back to the CCU. But that's all we know for the moment. Thank you. Question numéro 4, Mr. Nuzzola. Mr. Mike Nuzzola. Mr. Nuzzola, you're in the room. Would you like to read your questions?
Yeah, I'll give it a shot, I guess.
Perfect.
I have it on my phone, so I'll...
Well, I have a copy if you want it.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, boy, it's small, eh? It's really small. I think I'm better off with my.
I have a big copy. He wants to read it. Mike, Mr. Nuzzola, I have a big copy. I have a big print. You go ahead. I'm like you.
Good for you. Good for you that you could see that small print there.
I think that last page is last month's.
Yeah, you gave me last month. I don't, I'm not going to read that.
No.
I think, look, they look like they're both last month's.
No. It's okay. We can read them for you if you like.
I'm gonna do it on my phone.
Okay. We might, but we're all patient. There's nowhere else to go right now.
I don't, see if you can find it for me, I don't see it. Well, usually I just speak without notes, but I think I should try to, I don't know, you did different procedure tonight, and we weren't given too much notice, and so that's the way it goes. Okay, so my first question, the government of Ukraine has made numerous requests, about the war, numerous requests for help as it watches their country being destroyed, their citizens being murdered, and the horrible conditions their survivors have to deal with. Considering how wealthy our city is and the huge cash surplus we have, we are in a strong position to make a substantial donation. Will the city consider doing that?
I think just before Mr. Nuzzola, I explained where the city stands. We won't be making a cash donation because, there's a lot of causes in the world, and this cause is, what's going on in the Ukraine is brutal. But we have never given to various causes. We prefer to help people here on the ground. And I think that the council has discussed this, and I think that's going to be our approach. I do recommend that if people want to make cash donations, they do so to the Red Cross, maybe Docteurs Sans Frontières would be two good causes. We're going to work with the CEUS when the potential of refugees coming to Montreal, and we've been told that it could be as soon as the next week or so. And we will try to organize and collect goods, and we are going to do that with the aid of Community Aid, who are very well suited to be able to help both the CEUS and to help the families integrate into the community.
Okay, I understand that there's lots of causes all the time. This seems to be, it's probably, I think it's going to become the worst tragedy, global tragedy of our generation.
Don't disagree.
And I think they really need help. And I think I didn't read my question all the way, but we have a huge cash surplus, which is taxpayers' money that we've been paying for many years, taxes, and the city has not reinvested that money like they should have into our quality of life and this and that. So it's the taxpayers' money. We gave it to the city for the good of the city. It wasn't used. Now I think I would feel better that my tax money that you have now in cash surplus not be given to scrupulous contractors, but given to people who really need it. Okay, I feel better if you make a substantial donation of our tax dollars to a very worthwhile cause like this.
Mr. Nuzzola.
You're not supposed to speak when I'm speaking. They run the meeting, not you.
So, Mr. Nuzzola, I understand your point. You have your opinion, and that's fine. I'm not going to take that away from you. My answer, though, remains the same. I think, for now, the city and council has decided that should the CEUS require help integrating Ukrainian refugees in our community, we feel that our efforts are best focused on that than to give money to the Red Cross or any other organization. We were just having a discussion with Mr. Bourbeau that now one of the problems that we're seeing is that some of the churches have so much have had so many donations now that it's overflowing. They don't know what to do with it because it costs money to transport and to ship.
That's why,
And
that's
there's-
why I'm saying cash donation. I realize that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
Question number 2. Last month, again, you did not answer my questions. You again portrayed me in a negative manner. You stated that I was advocating for the eviction of tenants and the demolition of the building at 380 Bordulac. I did not. I have always spoken up against those actions. You, as a city councillor, and a member of the Urban Planning Committee have endorsed these unfair circumstances on citizens. You have approved zoning bylaws which have closed down businesses, resulting in citizens losing their jobs and enabling tenants to be evicted. You are responsible for those actions, not me. From your statements last month, are you confirming that you will not approve any demolition for 380 Bordulac, as it will lead to eviction of tenants?
So I'll answer that question just by reminding you that you asked me last month, and I'll read it. Will the city immediately start the expropriation process before the new owners start making plans to build a massive building on this site, which will pollute this landmark location?
That's exactly what I asked, and you
Yeah.
didn't answer that.
I did. I said no.
You did not,
I said I will not expropriate
Yeah.
that building. It has.
Okay, well, I don't remember you saying no, but I remember you saying, I will not throw out the tenants and demolish the building. That's not what I said. I didn't talk about demolishing the building.
Well, how do you
I didn't talk about evicting tenants.
Well, how do you
I asked,
expropriate?
will you start the process of expropriating that site,
Well, what's the sole purpose of expropriation?
so that someone doesn't build a longer, taller building that's going to take up most of the site, that's going to block the park views, that's going to be an eyesore in that location. That would be the purpose. Yes.
That's not. Okay.
You could demolish if you have to, and you have approved that. So now tonight I'm asking, from what you said last month, that you don't want to demolish the building and evict tenants. That means that you will never give them a zoning change to change the building, because if they do that to demolish the building, you will never give a permit to demolish the building. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, Mr. Nozzola, that I see no reason today for taking any actions off the owner of that building, period. I don't want to expropriate. I don't want to block any future project. It's not for me to decide what to do with this property.
No, but you said to me last month, we will not demolish the building and evict the tenants. That means if you don't want to do it, you don't want anybody else not to do it either. Are you saying you will not give a permit to demolish that building?
Mr. Nozzola, no one has ever come to us to ask us to do anything with that property.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen because
I'm glad you have a crystal ball. What I know today is that there's 2 ground floor retail shops there, which are both used. One's a massage parlor, one's a lady gentleman who do some kind of hair pieces. I don't know what they are, but I know they're there, and there's people living in the apartments upstairs. Why would I want to take any actions over a property owner?
Okay, no, that's fine. That's
for
fine.
no
Look,
reason.
When it comes up for a demolition permit, we'll remember this night.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Question number 3. It's about our urban plan. A few weeks ago, Point Claire City Council put a freeze on new development so it can overhaul its urban plan. Considering the disregard past Dorval City Councils have had for our master plan and the needs of our citizens, we should also, sorry, next time I'm going to bring them in print.
It's okay.
We should also be overhauling our master plan. Right now, our master plan does not include provisions for affordable housing, for senior housing, for green homes. In tonight's agenda, you have many draft bylaws amending our current plan. This is another sign that our plan needs to be revised. Will this city put a freeze on new development to allow a full review of our master plan so it can meet our needs?
It's a very good question. Mr. Nozola, you've seen the agenda for tonight, and we have an incredible amount of legislation. And if you, and please, spend the evening with us, we'll discuss it. Items 3E to 3M have all to do with our urban plans, has to do with bringing some of our existing regulation up to date. We have a section which is going to be a complete review of the PIA, I guess call it site planning and architectural integration program bylaw. There's going to be many months of discussions on it, including consultations, working with consultants, and the community will be involved. And we also have point 3M, which we'll discuss further later in the meeting, which is a complete freeze on the triangle that, Monsieur Bourbeau he calls it the triangle of Bermuda, but it's really the triangle of the 520 and the 20 and 55th Avenue. So that will be tonight. We'll put that under a complete freeze for 90 days so that we can do a reflection and develop some orientations on what we want in that sector of the city. So I'm going to explain those as we read them tonight, because I understand that there's probably a lot of people here with questions on them. We're going to go through them slowly. I will explain what we're doing, and then I will say that anyone who wants the documents can get them from the city clerk's office, I would assume tomorrow?
Yes.
Tomorrow. You'll have at least a month to read and digest that information before we move to the next step, where we'll be hiring a professional firm to guide us through all of these sessions, where we're going to include citizen participation and public consultations in a process that's going to last probably through to the end of the year. So I hope that answers your question.
No, you didn't really answer my question.
No?
I said, will you put a freeze on all new development so we can overhaul our master plan? That was basically the question. You didn't answer it. You didn't answer it. And all the amendments to the draft bylaws,
Yeah.
I'm using that as an example as to why we should be overhauling and revising our master plan. Because you have to make so many revisions, that tells me that our master plan is not adequate.
Okay.
And it should be overhauled and redone. To meet, you also did not, you answered my question, you did not address the major concerns. No seniors residence, no affordable housing, and no green buildings. That should be in the master plan. You don't have that there. Our master plan is basically worth nothing, and you're proving it tonight because you got to make 10 revisions to it.
Well, it was developed about 12 years ago. About 12 years ago, and it's good. It was a reflection up until 2035, I believe, and we're a new administration here, and we're 4 months in, and what we're bringing to the table right now is something that's never been done in this city, and that is a complete review of our site planning and our architectural integration program. We're going to be doing this with members of the community. It's going to include citizen participation. We're going to have public consultations where specialists who are going to discuss this with us. We're going to have roundtables. We're going to have forums. We're going to have all kinds of discussions on what the future of Dorval should look like. And I think this is an openness that we haven't seen here. So,
Exactly right.
Before attacking us, okay, I think we should all just sit down, get the documentations. We will be explaining it over the next couple of months. We have a good year of this in front of us. Next month, we will be approving, hopefully, the contract for the company who will guide us through all of this, the consultants who will guide us through this, and I think it's going to make a lot of sense. But if you want to attack it right now before we've even put anything on paper...
I'm not attacking what you're doing. I'm attacking what you're not doing.
I think we're doing a lot. I think we're doing...
You're right. The master plan was 12, what you said, 12 years ago? It was never respected, not only respected when it was convenient.
Okay.
So, but the main problem is, I applaud you for what you're doing. You're making some steps which were never done before, which reflects very poorly on past administrations that they did a terrible job. But the main questions, there's many questions, but the main ones, how come we don't have, you have to address senior citizens residents, affordable housing, and green buildings.
Okay.
You made the environment a big topic of your campaign.
Yeah.
And you don't have any LEED buildings, any green buildings. You're giving permits with...
Mr. Nuzzola, I'm trying to explain to you that this is the discussion that we're going to have for the next year. Exactly that. And we're going to talk about green roofs. We're going to talk about white roofs. We're going to talk about electric, making sure that all the apartment buildings that are being built have places for electric vehicles. We're talking about making sure that bikes, all the buildings will have spaces for bikes. We're going to have all of these discussions. And I'll explain more of this in detail when we get down into approving some of this. But there has to be a starting point. As for seniors building, we have a project that on Dawson Avenue that we're trying very hard we have a piece of land that we're willing to donate. We have architectural plans that are done, ready to give to a developer. All we need is money. That's all we need. I mean, maybe what we need to do is collect money amongst us.
The problem is, like and like we've discussed in the past, you've allowed other projects to go up, huge projects. The biggest project in the history of Dorval on Dorval Avenue, the Queen of Angels project. You did not leave space for affordable housing and affordable senior housing and affordable. You did not leave space for that.
The project I'm talking about.
Now you're saying you're in the process. I agree.
Project I'm trying
but
to
how many
talk
more
to you about
projects are going to get
seniors.
approved? How many more projects are going to get approved before that's finalized?
The project that I'm talking to you is going to be a project for people, for seniors with very low income. And Mr. Trudeau and I have a discussion, hopefully, if not this week, very early next week, with our partners who have been guiding us through this process for the last 2-3 years. And we're hopeful. There's a new program that was just announced last week, and hopefully we can get it done. And I tell you, Mr. Mazzola, if the city has to put a little bit of money into that project to make that work, I'll seriously consider that. Because obviously we can't do it when we donate the land and we have architectural plans.
You don't want to do what the city of Montreal did and the other cities have done and say, okay, if you want to build a building, if you want to build a project on Dorval Avenue, you got to have 30% affordable housing. You got to have 30% seniors housing. You don't want to do that then.
I'd like to do it, Mr. Nuzzola, but have you seen what happens in Montreal when they do that? It doesn't get done.
Well, no, there's lots of building, there's lots of construction going on in Montreal. The beautiful project where the old Forum was, it's a beautiful project, and it meets all those requirements. So if developers have no option, they're going to build it.
Okay, Mr.
They're going
Nuzzola?
to take the route where they can make the most money.
Okay.
Not the route where they can serve the public.
That's fine. Mr.
You're
Nuzzola?
supposed to take the route where you can serve the public. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take question number 5 from Géraldine Roland. Thank you. Madame Roland, on s'est parlé l'autre jour au téléphone, n'est-ce pas?
Oui,
Oui.
en effet. D'ailleurs, ma question, c'est juste, je réitère ma question du mois dernier, juste pour m'assurer que le reste de Dorval entende les réponses.
Oui.
J'ai rédigé ma question en anglais. The exemption to zoning bylaw RCM 68/2015 that was planned to be voted last council meeting requires that 185 Dorval Avenue, that has around 100 dwellings, have 145 parking spaces when needing 175. Where will the extra 30 cars go?
Did you want to answer, Ms.? Yeah. Mike.
Bonsoir. Peut-être votre question 1 et la question 2, ça ressemble un peu, OK? Parce qu'on parle de... C'est mieux en français ou en anglais? Okay, because we talk about the ratio of parking space. One of the things that we kind of don't know because of the sizes of apartments that there will be more smaller one-bedroom apartment. So therefore, the ratio of parking, yes, we do have a figure that we put in place of 1.75. But we really don't know how many cars there will end up by tenant, okay? One thing that we do look at, okay, or that we did notice, is that quite often there is a parking spot, okay, allotted, and it ends up being empty because the tenants don't want to use the parking spot or pay for that parking spot.
Which one?
Well, other projects that there's been around, either in this city or other cities, people don't use the parking spot. They feel that they could go and park in the street. Now, what we will be doing, okay, for either the people of Cloverdale, Louise Lamy, Élie de Bellefeuille, is that we're looking to do a program of vignettes, okay, so that the residents that are living on the street will have to have a vignette. So therefore, if somebody from the apartment buildings go and park there, automatically, well, they will be receiving a ticket. So it'd probably be a lot cheaper for them to rent a parking spot, so we're forcing them to use the parking in the area, okay? And we've got to realize that the gases, GRS gases that we are trying to have people get away from using cars, using public transportation. We know that we're going to have the REM that's going to be right in our area. The bus service will be crucial. That maybe will have to be reviewed, okay, so that people would have better access to the REM stations that would be at the airport and that type of stuff. So these are things that we would have to insist upon with the transport, okay, to get people away from their car. I know you have an electric car.
No.
I thought I saw an electric car when I did.
I use my 2 feet to come
Oh,
here
okay,
tonight.
but, okay. We know that electric car will help, or helps, okay, our environment and prevents it.
One question for you. If you anticipate to give vignettes, don't you admit that the ratio of 175 is actually realistic, more than 1.2 or 145?
No, it's not an admission of anything. As we discussed on the phone with Robert, he was in the car with me when we had our conversation. I explained that there are many apartment buildings, and I want to bring that point. I want to say it loud. There are a lot of apartment buildings that are around Dorval that do not have full parking lots. I'm not saying all of them, but there are some. Okay, almost everything that's being built on Dorval Avenue that right now we're discussing about Square Dorval. We're talking 195 Dorval Avenue, which is not a complete project yet. It has not been fully approved, so we don't know how many units will be in there. And the 200 Dorval Avenue, again, not a complete project, and we don't know exactly how many units are going to be in that. There's an assumption that everybody has 2 cars, and that's not an assumption. That is a correct assumption. What we see in other buildings, in some of them anyways, is that they're partially empty. Renters and condo owners do not have the same amount of cars, and we know this. Our urban planners know this, and we see it, and we've investigated this in the past. So to say that there's going to be 100 units and there'll be 175 cars, that's an assumption, right? It's just, if we had made it 1.8, would we say that it would have 180 cars? It's an assumption.
It's just it works in my street. Isn't that funny?
Pardon?
This exact ratio works perfectly in my street. One house has only 1 car. It's a widower that lives there. Next door, there's a family with 6 people in there. There used to be 2 cars. One of them turned 18 and is a grown-up now. There's 3 cars.
I understand. You live on a residential street, just like I do. I know I have 2 children, and there was a time where there was 4 cars in the driveway. I understand what you're saying. It doesn't mean that there's going to be a studio size of apartment, or an apartment that's a little bit bigger than a studio that is going to have 2 or 3 cars. It might have 1, it might have none.
So here's my rebuttal. I'm going to merge question 1 and question 2. Please remember, Square Dorval is 10 times as big as 185 Dorval Avenue. Madam and Mr. Councillors and Mr. Mayor, I appeal to your common sense. Tonight, you will most probably, I'm in the blind here, vote on a new mathematical formula that frees, in theory only, parking spaces of rental or condo buildings on Dorval Avenue. Experience on the rental buildings of Roy and Lepage, I live there, contradicts such calculation. 175 is a realistic ratio. Tonight, when you vote, or when you discuss, remember that the goal of building on Dorval Avenue is, as Mr. Lesage explained during last campaign, to revive businesses on Dorval Avenue. If customers cannot park easily, they will not return to shop on Dorval Avenue, and in 5 years from now, we will be back from square one. So think, please think. You're a new team, please use your common sense. Now my 3rd question, and this one is worrisome. Parking space, it's just going to be hell to live in Dorval, obviously. Question 3, which is much more important. Once Square Dorval is finished, and there's 1,000 new dwellings in there, there will be more traffic coming from Square Dorval, and I'm worried about the extra traffic that will come on the west towards Fénelon. Square Dorval will have an exit on Carson Avenue at the level of Louise Lamy. How will this extra traffic going west towards Fénelon be managed? My concern is, for the past 7 years, I walked my kid to school, to the Gentilly School, and in May, June, September, and October, some school children bike to school from 7:30 to 8 a.m. And depending on how crowded the pedestrian way is, they switch from the pedestrian way to the street because they are good citizens. But because they are children, they don't look behind them. So how can the Gentilly School count on the city of Dorval to ensure their safety?
Do you want to?
We do have a study that's going to take place, okay, on this subject, okay, of the traffic, which way will it be going? We know that on Dorval Avenue and Carson, they will be making the street wider so that you'll have 3 lanes to go up from Carson to go up onto Dorval Avenue North, okay? So they're expanding that by taking the property on the side of the shopping center, okay? So we presently have 2, you're going to have 3. And I think the study that we will be getting, okay, is going to give us a better vision of what there is as traffic, as you mentioned, okay? And we are going to have a meeting in the near future. I received a note from the school that our circulation committee will be sitting down with the police, okay, that's part of this committee, and to see what other action they feel that needs to be taken. Okay, we got a note to have a meeting in the near future. We have to reschedule it with them, so I'm waiting for them to reply to us. But we're waiting for this study, okay, to help us on making a decision. So that, and your point is well taken, the traffic that heads between those key hours, I'm gonna call it that, okay, for the security of our kids on the street. So point well taken.
So I just would like to reinforce Monsieur Lesage's point here. We will be announcing that study in the next, I'm going to say 2 to 3 months, and that is to envision the circulation around Carson, Dawson, Dorval Avenue, and if we can even get it up to Bouchard, it will be there. And this is part of this whole rezoning discussion, and it's part of, as we see the construction being started, it's part of making sure that we can have information to the developers that make sense, because right now we have old numbers, they're not necessarily accurate anymore, and we want to make sure that we have a very strong traffic profile of that sector of the city. So within 2 to 3 months max, we'll be approving that. And also separately to this as well, it's the intention of the council at some point early next year as well. We can't do everything in 1 year. I'd like to, but we can't. Do a separate study to discuss bike paths and how we can improve the north-south, east-west link, and how we can improve the flow to the elementary schools. As you know, the bike path is on Dawson. All the schools are on Carson, and somehow we have to make Dawson a little bit more secure and get the kids down to the schools. So that's not part of this urban planning thing, but that's a different thing, and council is committed to doing that in 2023.
Est-ce que je peux ajouter un point, monsieur
Oui.
le maire? Bonjour, j'ai Pascal Brault, district numéro 2. J'ai des enfants qui vont à Gentilly et je connais très, très bien la problématique. J'ai eu 3 enfants et avec M. Trudeau, M. Bourbeau qui travaille à la ville, on va mettre l'emphase là-dessus pour sécuriser un chemin sécuritaire et bien indiqué, qui soit bien indiqué pour aller à l'école, parce qu'on a beaucoup d'enfants qui voyagent maintenant par vélo. Ils voyagent, moi, mon enfant voyage par vélo ou marche à l'année longue, 1,5 km. Puis ça va être la nouvelle norme. Donc, le nouveau conseil est très au courant, puis on va faire des démarches pour sécuriser le tout.
Merci, Monsieur Bon. Merci, Monsieur Lesage, et merci, Monsieur le maire.
Question number 6, question 6, Monsieur Fernando Pellissier. Vous êtes dans la chambre. Ça va bien?
Ça va bien, merci.
Excellent.
When are we going to stop doing this?
The masks, we're stuck with them for a while.
Yeah, for a
anyway.
while. Let me read my questions. Regarding St. Charles Park and further to the last council meeting, which confirmed that the city will undertake an archaeological survey of the park, my question is, has the city undertaken any steps in the last month to engage the services of consultants to complete an archaeological survey by GPR of the southern portion of the park, which is the part that's more relevant historically? If helpful, I have forwarded to the director, Mr. Robert Bourbeau, and the councillor, Mrs. Nicole Duchâtel, the coordinates of 2 local firms which perform GPR services.
I have 3 names, but if you have names, we'll gladly take them.
They're forwarded. Monsieur Bourbeau has them, and Madame Duchâtel
okay.
has them. Anyway, it's a continuation of the discussions of the last few months.
Yeah, understood.
So the question is, has the city undertaken any steps?
We have not gone out to hire anyone yet, but it will be done.
Thank you. Also, regarding St. Charles Park, my question is, when will the city present to its citizens the concept documents regarding the renovated park, and can there be an exchange of ideas regarding this concept to suggest possible improvements?
So I believe the date is set for the 29th. It was posted earlier today on our website.
29th of March?
Yeah, correct. It's 7 o'clock. There'll be, pardon? There'll be a 30-hour, 30-minute presentation, followed by an hour and a half question and period discussion.
Okay.
That'll be here at the community center. And the presentation on the 30th will be put online. I believe that in the Facebook post, there was even a couple of teaser pictures. And
Well, I don't do Facebook.
oh no,
No, I call this social poison.
it's on the website too.
Really. 29th of March at what time?
7
o'clock.
7.
In his from here? Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
And,
But I hope
and
that-
we're talking about, just to be clear, right? Because there was a question earlier. We're talking about Phase 1, which is the play area
Okay.
at the northern end of the park that is between the basketball court and the house, the properties facing the lakeshore.
So it will not include the southern portion?
It will not include the southern portion.
Okay. Well, I hope it's an exchange that is constructive.
Everybody will have time to speak and discuss. You know, it is a play park. It is, and it will continue to be. But what I would really like to see is people who have children with certain disabilities be there and validate that what we're proposing is a good choice of play equipment. Because the
Okay.
whole point of this is to be an inclusive park.
We'll see on the 29th. Lastly, last month I noted that there are 7 buildings listed by the Dorval Historical Society as having historical interest, which are not listed by the city. For example, the tavern building, the old tavern building on the corner of Martin and Lakeshore, that's not listed. Yet, if you lose that building, you're losing a lot of the character of Dorval. Anyway, I was pleased to hear from Councillor Mrs. Nicole Duchâtel that my suggestion to add these buildings to the city list will be examined. However, Mayor Dorhay's response that there are no buildings classified by the Ministry of Culture in Dorval is rather disappointing. I would like to point out to the mayor that the Quebec legislation on cultural heritage, Chapter 4, Identification and Protection of Cultural Heritage by Municipalities, puts the responsibilities, and I underline, on the municipalities to identify and protect their own heritage, not the other way around. According to this legislation, each municipality is to have a local heritage council, un conseil du patrimoine, to help review matters related to the protection and conservation of our heritage. In the case of Dorval, this council could be the Planning Advisory Committee, PAC or CCU in French, which unfortunately in our case has little to no experience in heritage issues and appears to be more focused on pro-development. I won't go to examples of that, but that's the case. My question is, will the city examine the possibility of establishing a separate local heritage council, Conseil du Patrimoine, which can help advise the CCU and council on matters related to our cultural heritage? In closing, I would like to express my support to the mayor and all councillors in their wise decision to acquire Les 80 property. It would be a welcome addition to the city. So the question is, I will repeat, will the city examine the possibility of establishing a separate local heritage council which can help advise the CCU and council members on matters related to cultural heritage?
Thank you, Mr. Pellicer. I can't say that we've sat down and said that we would actually do something that you're suggesting. I think there are some people in the CCU who have very much the skill set to establish what's a historical property.
No, well, that I doubt.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
It is, but
You know, I think We have our director of urban planning is very well versed in this, and her skill set is extraordinary. Again, that's my opinion, but I think her skill set is extraordinary, and I think she has very good judgment. I have another member on the CCU who was involved in the project that is today the museum, the Dorval Museum, where I think they did a wonderful job, better than wonderful job in restoring a very important building, bringing it to life in ways that no one would have even thought of when the city purchased it. The roof was totally rotten and leaking. No one even knew there were stables there today, and I think it's a fabulous building today. That very same person is involved in the restoration project of the gardener's house on the other side of the Forest and Screen. And that project will be coming around very shortly, I believe. And again, it's a wonderful project which is very contemporary on one side, and yet restores the envelope of the building back to its original nature, including the type of glass that's made for the windows, the frames of the windows. So to just dismiss whatever knowledge you think there is, I think is a little harsh.
Not really, because you're talking about a specific project. What I'm talking about is a bigger scope. I'm talking about the evolution of the city as a whole. And there are clear examples where important heritage-type buildings, such as the one that was on the corner of Pine Beach and Lakeshore, that's lost to build a McMansion. The one that is behind on Neptune, on the south side of Lakeshore, a three-story house which is overbearing on a classic French-Canadian house. The house on the corner of Neptune and Lakeshore, the Allard House, that had a classic roof on it that was a batten-type roof that was allowed to put a shingle roof on. I can go on with other examples. It's not one or two specific heritage-type projects that make a CCU heritage conscious. It's the whole picture that it's important. And that is lacking in this city. The protection of our heritage is weak. Not that it's not there. You're taking moves on the 80, which is a good move. You've done the gardener's house, the coach house. These are buildings that are important, and you would have been ashamed to lose them. So you're right. You're doing those moves. That's great. But I'm talking about the bigger picture of the city as a whole, allowing flat roof type buildings with 2 garages in the front to be built in areas where it's bungalow type buildings, inconsistent with the neighborhood. There are examples of that all over the city. That has to stop. And the only way to stop that is to be conscious of it. And the only way to be conscious of it is not to have a CCU that is very pro-development. So a Conseil du Patrimoine would only have the power to illuminate and suggest ideas, not to decide, but at least inform the people making decisions what the consequences are on the heritage. That's my point. So look at that idea. Look at the idea of having a Conseil du Patrimoine, which will give you another level of protection of our heritage.
Okay, thank you. I will reflect on that. Okay, question number 7, Madame Cournoyer. Mrs. Cournoyer. It's a little thing, but you can call me Mr. Doré or Mark. Not just Doré.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes when you're editing a question, a word slips out that you didn't intend to
You were so excited to type that you forgot.
It's because we teased him about it.
But I wanted to start off my question with something that your form didn't allow or doesn't give us room for, and that is to give, I would like to give a personal thank you and an acknowledgement to our City Council members who participated on March the 12th in our affordable housing forum that we organized with our Table de Quartier. The presence of our council members and their participation in the discussion was really appreciated by everybody who participated in that forum. So I'd like to give a personal thank you to Mr. Leroux, to Madame Duchastel, to Mr. Lesage, and to Mr. Brault. It's really enheartening and encouraging to see so much interest in affordable housing from the part of our city council members, and it's really wonderful to see you support the Table de Quartier with your presence and your interventions and your sharing of knowledge. So I just wanted to say a big thank you for that and acknowledge your participation.
You're very welcome. The only disappointing thing is I called them the next day for the recording, and they didn't record it, so.
No, it was, we wanted to respect people's privacy that way, yeah. Now to my first question. I was happy to note that in Article 4L of tonight's agenda, that the city is progressing to the signature of a promise to purchase the convent at the foot of Dahlia. Mayor, I'm correcting myself there. You've underlined the historical importance of the oldest part of the convent complex, 80. However, the modern part of the convent has a heritage value too. Buildings of the 50s and 60s eras are also our built heritage that reflect the evolution of architectural design thinking of the time. They're a reflection of ourselves and our city and how we thought what good design for our institutions should look like. To lose this building would be similar to losing works of art of the same era, many of which are currently displayed in museums around the world. The convent appears to be a solid masonry building, mostly brick, with some stone trim, of minimalist design with extensive fenestration. It's a 3-story structure, probably of reinforced concrete, which is ideal for conversion into other uses such as municipal departments, public meeting rooms, archives, community group offices, etc., without major structural intervention. Though upgrades would likely be required for the electrical and mechanical systems, it would be more economical to refurbish the buildings than to demolish and build a similar-sized building and lose some of our built heritage. Does Dorval recognize the value of this modern heritage, and what are its plans to adapt the modern part of the convent to the needs of our growing population?
Good question. So tonight we will be approving an intent to purchase the building. We have made an offer on the building, and now we're going to work through that process, which I think will take 2 months, Mr. Bourbeau, about?
Yeah.
About 2 months before all the documents are signed. So it's safe to say that we're on the right track, and I hope that we'll have, in 2 months, confirmation and we have that building. But we have made an offer, and it tentatively is accepted. So that's the good news. Now, to your question, that building is, for most people, I'm sure most people haven't seen it, it's a very special building. Special, and I don't mean that we'll call it, maybe I should say it's a unique building. It would remind you of a very clean 1960 hospital without any of the medical equipment. The 2 floors which were bedrooms are very small. They have, the rooms do not have washrooms. There's an occasional room that has maybe a sink in it. All the washrooms are communal. You know, right now we know that so that's part of our challenge. What do you do with that type of configuration? We do know that it has asbestos in it. We know it has asbestos in the ceiling tiles, and we haven't even done an engineering report. This is just a walkthrough that we had in the property recently. There's asbestos that's blown on the piping. There's asbestos on the floor tiles. There's asbestos in the ceiling. The roof needs to be redone. It's somewhere between 20 and 25 years old, so it's an asphalt roof, and it needs to be redone. There's no sprinkler systems installed in the building. So the very first thing you'd have to do, even if we wanted to use it, is to put in a sprinkler system, which is probably one of the most expensive pieces of renovation that you'd have to do in there. It does not have any central air. It must have been very, very hot in there during the summer. And so I think we're faced with a lot of challenges. So now what we're doing is we're doing our due diligence. We are going to engage a firm who's going to do a full review of the building, from the electrical wiring, from the engineering, and just lay out what it is that we're actually buying. You know, we were not necessarily buying that property for the annex, what they call the annex. I think if we talked with Monsieur Pellicer before, that house is a unique property. Now, it's been changed over time. We know we have historical pictures. It doesn't look quite the same as it was when it was in 1896. But the inside is incredible, and I think this week we're going to get our communications manager to go take some pictures to put them on the website. The tiles that are in there are spectacular. The windows, there's sconces that are just fantastic. What I don't know if it was the living room or dining room. It has an inlay. It has a recessed painted inlay ceiling, which I've never seen in a house before. So This is what really, we were talking about restoration and protecting. That's really what is important for us. The building itself, we're going to have to take time to review it. And Mrs. Cornway, I'm not going to hide it from you. We're not even going to have this discussion about use of that building until next year, and maybe even later. We're going to have time to reflect on what the next step is, all based on the reports that we get about that building.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Mr. Doré. I think you've made it quite clear in your media interviews the value which you consider the original house that Ms. Désirée Grouard built to be of considerable historical value. My point was I just wanted to make the point that the annex also has an architectural heritage that we should consider preserving as well.
You're absolutely right. If we, and this is a reflection we're going to have, and it's going to be a long reflection. Maybe it means that we use part of it. Maybe it's 2/3 one, and we bring it down to a scale that we can use. It's a very big building, and I don't know that we need the whole thing. Maybe we can adapt it for a use that is specific for the city. Could it be a new cultural center? Maybe. I don't know. We're way, way too early. The first thing we need to do is to figure out what the situation is in the building, and decide whether or not we can move forward with it, or is it so expensive that it's easier to take it down and just build a purpose-built building that the community would like to see? Or is it at a point where we say, okay, well, we just do this, that, and this, and we can use it? We don't know. We're not there yet.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to see that you're assessing the building, the condition as it is, and evaluating the possibility of doing extensive renovations. It's pretty obvious that if you live the life of a nun and you're going to adapt it to other purposes, that you have to do substantial renovations. But we've seen other convents here in Montreal successfully adapted for that, despite their problems. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Now, my second question.
Mr. Pellicer, we'll just let Mrs. Cornway answer.
With respect to the whole conversation you're having there, should I come to the microphone?
Well, I would have preferred her. No, Mrs. Cornway needs to finish her questions. You can come back after everybody's asked their questions.
On that subject.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My second question had to do with the city manager position, and I'd like to start off by wishing Mr. Robert Bourbeau all the best on his retirement and to thank him for his long years of service to the city.
Thank you very much. 40 years of service is quite impressive.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's considerable. So we know how important your job is. So I guess my question was to say that as you're leaving in June, what are the steps that the city is taking to find a good city manager replacement? Will a headhunting firm be hired? Where shall the ads for his position be posted? Who will review the applications? How shall the hiring board conducting the interviews be structured? And at what date is the city targeting for a new manager to take office?
We'll be using the services of a headhunting firm that specializes in the public sector and nonprofit type of environment. We've already reached out to someone and made a decision. There will be a committee that will be put in place. The committee will be made up of some council members and some residents from Dorval. I think we've confirmed 2 of the 3 possible persons to sit on that committee. There will also be Mr. Trudeau and myself, and hopefully one more person. And that's how it's going to take place. We're hoping to have someone for the beginning of June.
Can I ask you what the qualifications of the residents will be to sit on the committee?
They're people who have, one's an entrepreneur, one is a retired businessman with extensive dealings with the city of Montreal, and one was a director in a major tech company here on the West Island.
Okay. Do you have anyone there who has extensive public service experience?
There could be someone there that has public service experience. It's possible.
Yeah, because it seems to me if you're looking for private sector input into the hiring of a candidate, that getting some good experienced public administration.
It's not because they're in the private sector that makes them interesting. It's because these were all they were people who were very successful in business and who were at very high levels of corporate administration. And we're looking for a director that is not necessarily coming from the private sector. We're looking with someone who has experience.
Yeah, because the HEC has got extensive courses in public administration and academic experts that might be useful in that kind of selection as well.
Okay, thank you.
For public administration, that expertise. Okay. And my third question, on today's agenda, there are a number of bylaw changes being proposed in Section 3 of the agenda, from Articles 3E to 3L, with a number of draft bylaws being tabled, at least in the English language version of the agenda. Normally, when bylaw changes are proposed, there's a citizen consultation before bylaws are officially accepted by City Council. I would like to ask you to describe what citizen consultation process there will be. And as the bylaw revisions refer to errors and omissions in the current bylaws, would it be possible to have a comprehensive list as to what these are? And in 3M, what actions will the city be taking to determine the vocation of the triangle between Côte-de-Liesse and the 20? And how long will that freeze take?
Okay. Lots of questions for one question, but...
Well, they're all have to do with what you're passing tonight.
Okay. Well, as I've said in the past, earlier on this evening, is that we will be hiring a professional services company to help us develop the changes that we need to do in our urban plan. And during that process, it will include, as I said before, consultations, ateliers, working sessions, call them whatever you want, but people will be able to meet with us on a certain subject for one day and discuss that. And then later on, there'll be another subject and discuss that. Similar to when we did the initial consultations for the urban plan and when we had the working sessions with the development of the project for Dorval Avenue through the village. So that's the kind of consultations we have. I can't tell you exactly what the steps are. I mean, we're going to be hiring someone in the coming weeks. We will sit down and we'll explain it. So there'll be lots of time for you to ask all of these questions.
Can I ask Mr. Maire Doré what areas in particular you're looking at revising, to give us a general idea as to what the objective of the revisions of these bylaws is?
Okay, well, some of these are, and I don't want to, again, we can discuss this after this meeting, otherwise we'll be here all night. But some of these, the zoning bylaw changes, there's some very specific things. It's correction of errors and things like that. I'll explain some of these later on in the meeting. I think the piece, and there's different sections, there's subdivision bylaw changes. I think the one that intrigues you, that you'll probably find the most interesting, is the revisions to the master plan. Because that's a reflection on the city as a whole. So that means projects that have not been started yet, they might be on Dorval Avenue. They might be on Heron Road. They may be on Bouchard. They may be in the triangle that we discussed before. Why are we not itemizing them? First, before we itemize them, we have to have a reflection. So we do not want to say, hey, this is what we're talking about, because that kind of only tells you you're going to talk about this, which is not the purpose of what we want to do. We want to have a reflection of the whole city.
Well, I think that's very laudable to have that kind of reflection, and I was quite happy to see that you're going to be looking at the triangle of the 20 Côte de Liesse and 55th Avenue as an area for redevelopment. And I noticed that you're putting a freeze on development there.
Correct. It's going to be a 90-day freeze initially.
90 days initially? Will you be also doing a freeze on those other areas that you mentioned? Bouchard, Dorval Avenue?
No, we'll not be putting a freeze anywhere else in the city other than that triangle.
Why not? Because if you're undergoing the reflection and a developer shows up with the project, wouldn't the project take precedence over the reflection?
What we're doing now, when we approve this tonight, in fact, anybody who doesn't have a building permit now will not be able to request one until this project is completed, which should take about a year.
Okay.
So,
well, that's a good answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I look forward to your discussion later on and getting the detail and the nitty-gritty. Thank you.
All right. Question 8. Let's move on if we can. Mr. Levine, welcome back. Yeah, right. We need to go through all the questions. It must have been cold the other morning. I saw you on Heron Road.
Yeah, I was demonstrating for who knows what.
Can't you wait till the warmer weather?
You want to know something? I once demonstrated, it was minus 19 at the Dorval Circle in order to keep the Lachine Hospital under the auspices of the McGill University Health Center. And I'm used to being outside in the cold.
All right. Go ahead with your question number 1.
Okay. Perhaps 2 years ago, I first asked that cyclists on Lakeshore be directed to Dawson. The only reason given for not doing so was that Lakeshore was part of Vélo Québec's route vert. I was in contact with Vélo Québec months ago. They welcomed hearing from me at that time as they were trying to make the route safer for cyclists and wider Dawson is infinitely safer for cyclists than Lakeshore, where I write the longest of sentences, where I could have easily killed 3 cyclists who went through red lights on 3 separate occasions last summer. And then the next question, or part of the question, and then there are the numerous hedges that needlessly obstruct the field of vision at intersections. In the interest of safety of everyone, can I expect Dorval to actually see that what I've been encouraging for as long as 2 years is finally implemented?
Mr. Doré, I'll answer the question, number one.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Levine, thank you for your question and the time you've been taking all of the years to try to secure people all around Dorval. Okay. First of all, concerning Dawson, the city has been always trying to ask the families and cyclists to go on Dawson. Take the turn on Enfield, then turn on Dawson. It's much wider, like you say. We've been doing everything we can with the signalization, and the SPVM agent on our circulation board always have said it was done properly. Now, everybody else also know that Vélo Québec are still aiming at having cyclists on Lakeshore. Why? We don't know, because it's very dangerous, and I agree with you. But that's it. And there's 2 reality, Vélo Québec and us. So we cannot change Vélo Québec idea. No.
Excuse me.
Well, I'm answering the way I can.
Okay.
And also the fact that our SPVM agent confirmed what we've been doing for us, that's the reason we're not doing anything else, because we've done our share.
Okay. I can basically bring this up in the next question. Almost a year ago, I asked Dorval to solve the problem of the Dorval-Dawson intersection, where numerous motorists headed south from the mandatory left turn lane. In order to have Dorval act, I placed ads on Facebook where I encouraged the masses to ask Dorval to solve the problem. I am thankful that after my spending perhaps $150 on ads and demonstrating, who knows, 20 times possibly, that Dorval did exactly as I had suggested months before. So I intend to compile what I spent and will request a check for what I spent. I will donate, Mike, where are you? You wake up? The money to an organization, a charity, that is helping Ukrainian refugees, all of it. In fact, I'll probably donate more than the $150 because there will be a tax receipt for what I would give, and it's probably worth 40%, so I'd give like 40% more. So that's 150 and 40 and 60. That's $200. Okay, so can I expect a check?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah, I mean,
Twice about the ratios. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I've just been advised that the web diffusion system crashed.
But he's rebooting.
But he's rebooting, so,
Yeah.
but we're going to continue on with the meeting.
He's rebooting. Is the recording still working? The rediffusion.
There's restarting the whole system. So we're going to continue with the meeting. Bon,
Oh, it's okay now.
we're online? We're back on.
Okay.
Okay.
Merci.
OK, on va continuer. On est au 2A, approbation du procès verbal de la séance tenue le 21 février.
Non, on a entendu ça. Monsieur le maire, je propose l'adoption du procès verbal de la séance tenue le 21 février 2022.
Je l'appuie.
Merci. 2B, dépôt d'un rapport de la Commission municipale du Québec. C'était un dépôt, puis on va noter que c'était très, très bien pour la ville de Dorval.
Ouais.
C'était une audit de conformité sur les transmissions des rapports financiers et ils ont vérifié 5 ans et on était conforme à tous les 5 ans. Excellent. 3A, avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-90-2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose de donner avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une date ultérieure du Conseil un règlement sur les modalités de publication des avis publics de la Cité de Dorval, la RCM 90-2022, et dépose le dit projet de règlement. Dans ce nouveau projet de règlement, Monsieur le maire, c'est que les publications de la Cité vont cesser d'être sur le messager de la chaîne Dorval. Et au lieu de ça, toutes les publications de la Cité vont être sur le site Web de la Cité, sur le Facebook de la Cité Dorval, et en plus, des copies papier de 10 avis publics seront disponibles au comptoir de nos centres communautaires, ainsi qu'au babillard de l'Hôtel de Ville. Et de cette façon, tous les résidents pourront en prendre note.
Et je pense, M. Trudeau, ceux qui sont inscrits pour nos updates
La
de
cybernouvelle, oui.
Le cybernouvelle vont l'avoir aussi.
Oui, effectivement.
Oui.
Merci.
Merci. Le 3B avait avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-43.3-2022.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give a notice of motion to propose at a future council meeting bylaw to be modified to be consistent with the new bylaw, RCM 43-2012, establishing a code of ethics and conduct for city employees in order to specify what can and can't be received as donations and other advantages by municipal employees from service providers or potential partners. And just to explain what this is, we've always had a bylaw regulating what can be accepted, but with recent legislature changes, or I should be looking at the camera, this further restricts it. So whereas previously there was a limit, now it's established, well, with this project that's being tabled tonight, that there's no lower limit, that absolutely no favors or services can be accepted by employees.
Thank you, Mr. Von Roort. 3C, adoption de règlement RCM-89-2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter tel que soumis le règlement sur la gestion contractuelle RCM 89-2022.
J'appuie.
Merci. 3D, règlement de délégation. Est-ce qu'on a des questions pour M. Bourbeau? Tout est répondu, merci. Là, on vient à 3E. On va faire le 3E et après le 3F, et après je vais expliquer un peu qu'est-ce qu'on fait. So, 3E, avis de motion de dépôt du premier projet de règlement RCM-60A-16-2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une séance ultérieure du Conseil le règlement RCM 60A-15-2022, modifiant de nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM 60A-2015, afin de corriger des erreurs ou des omissions qui sont glissées dans le cadre de la refonte du règlement de 2015 et de bonifier quelques dispositions réglementaires et dispositions des dits projets de règlement. Pour le 3F,
non,
OK?
Non, c'est un avis, oui. Vas-y, 3F.
Attendez, je descends. Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter le premier projet de règlement RCM 60A-15-2022, modifiant de nouveau le règlement de zonage RCM 60A-2015, afin de corriger les erreurs ou les émissions qui sont glissées dans le cadre de la refonte des règlements de 2015 et de bonifier quelques dispositions réglementaires, de tenir une assemblée publique de consultation sur l'édit projet à une date à être déterminée par la greffière.
Je seconde.
Merci. So these two articles refer to zoning bylaws, and what we're talking about here is correction of errors, changes to reduce complaints at the urban planning department with technicalities, protect our shorelines and floodplains, impose on promoters to contribute towards parks, playgrounds, and natural spaces. There will also be new provisions, and I'm not going to read all of them, but to include spaces for parking spaces for bicycle, places for visitors, spaces with electric recharging, car recharging stations. We're talking about sizes of garages, better setbacks between properties. So basically here, this is basically regulatory issues. And with that, there will be, this will include, included in the public consultations, and people will be asked to participate as well in those discussions. So, 3G, avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-60B1, B.1-2022.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give notice of motion that the council review bylaw RCM 60B1 2022, modifying the subdivision bylaw RCM 60B 2015 in order to modify the provisions of the contribution required for the purposes of parks, playgrounds, and natural areas. So that's the notice of motion, and I'll pass to 3H. Et je propose d'adopter le projet de règlement RCM 60B1 2022, modifiant le règlement de lotissement RCM 60B 2015 aux fins de modifier les dispositions applicables pour la compensation relative aux parcs, terrains de jeu et espaces naturels, ainsi que de tenir une assemblée publique de consultation sur le dit projet de règlement à une date à être déterminée par la greffière.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Thank you. So in 3G, 3H basically is discussing our subdivision bylaws, and the purpose and the object of this is to impose the applicable provisions for compensations for parks when applying for a subdivision permit. This is something that we did not have. We used to have a frais de parc, but that was a one-time, that had a one-time use. Every time there's going to be a redevelopment of a property, of a large property, there will be compensation that will have to be paid, and that is to increase green space, parks, in whatever that locale is. So this is something completely new, and basically what other cities are doing today. We're doing a little catch up there, so good thing to do. 3I. Avis de motion de dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-60C-3-2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je donne avis de motion à l'effet de proposer à une séance ultérieure du conseil le règlement RCM-60C-3-2022 modifiant à nouveau le règlement sur l'implantation et intégration architecturale RCM 60C-2015 aux fins de corriger une erreur et d'introduire de nouvelles dispositions pour mieux encadrer l'installation de panneaux solaires et autres systèmes utilisant l'énergie solaire, et dépose le dit projet de règlement. Et donc, par la suite, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'adopter le projet de règlement RCM-60-3-2022, modifiant à nouveau le règlement sur les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale RCM-60C-2015 aux fins de corriger une erreur et d'introduire de nouvelles dispositions pour mieux encadrer l'installation de panneaux solaires et autres systèmes utilisant l'énergie solaire, et aussi de tenir une assemblée publique de consultation sur le dit projet à une date à être déterminée par la greffière.
I need a seconder, please.
Je seconde.
Merci. Ici, on parle de la section du plan d'urbanisme qui est le PIA, et c'est pour l'imposition d'objectifs et critères pour des panneaux solaires, quelque chose qui n'était pas bien défini, et donc on pense que c'est le temps de faire ces modifications-là. Tout ça est assujettés à des consultations publiques et de participation citoyenne aussi. Le 3K, avis de motion et de dépôt de projet de règlement RCM-60-PU.20.2022.
So this is the big one. I'd like to give a notice of motion on tabling of the draft bylaw RCM 60PU.2-2022 to further amend the Urban Master Plan bylaw RCM 60PU-2015 in order to review the development and redevelopment orientation of certain areas. And then proceed to make the actual motion. Je propose d'adopter le projet de règlement RCM 60PU.2-2022, modifiant à nouveau le plan d'urbanisme durable RCM 60PU 2015, afin notamment de prendre en considération l'arrivée d'une station et de l'aire d'influence de deux autres stations de réseau express métropolitaine, REM, sur le territoire de la cité de Dorval et de modifier en conséquence les orientations et objectifs du plan d'urbanisme pour en tenir compte. De prévoir une planification détaillée pour certains secteurs de la cité afin de mieux encadrer leur développement ou redéveloppement. Et finalement, de tenir une assemblée publique de consultation sur le dit projet à une date à être déterminée par la greffière.
Je seconde.
Thank you. This is relating to our master plan, and as Chris said, this is where the majority of our reflection will be on, and the purpose of this is to reflect on the development and redevelopment directions of certain sectors of the city. Not defined because we're including everything, but this will not apply to any project that has already been approved by the council. So I will give an example. North American Group, Square d'Orval, has a permit to build Phase 1 and Phase 2. They would be exempt. This bylaw would not apply to Phase 1 and Phase 2, but Phase 3, 4, and 5, which have yet to be determined, would definitely fall under the new, whatever the reflection brings to us in the next year or so. So that gives us an example. Okay, I believe we're on 3M. Adoption d'une résolution de contrôle intérimaire afin d'entamer une réflexion quant à la vocation du secteur situé entre l'autoroute 20, le chemin de Côte-de-Liesse et la 55e avenue.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, l'adoption d'une résolution de contrôle intérimaire afin d'entamer une réflexion quant à la vocation du secteur triangle situé entre l'autoroute 20, le chemin de la Côte-de-Liesse et la 55e avenue.
On a besoin
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. Et bon, ça va, Madame Lavitaine, ça va être en effet demain?
C'est bien ça, Monsieur le maire.
Excellent. On a hâte à une réflexion là-dessus. Ouais. Bon. Contrat et entente 4A, achat et installation d'un chauffe-eau.
Bon. Monsieur le maire, je propose de rejeter la soumission déposée par l'entreprise Groupe Mécano Inc. dans le cadre de l'appel d'offres public TP 2021-40, les coûts étant jugés trop élevés. Je propose ici d'autoriser une enveloppe budgétaire de 172 462,50 $, toutes taxes comprises, pour réaliser l'ensemble du projet d'acquisition et d'installation d'un nouveau chauffe-eau pour échangeurs au centre aquatique et communautaire Surrey, d'autoriser l'octroi d'un mandat à la firme 9447-2479 Québec Inc. pour des services de support technique dans le cadre du projet d'acquisition et d'installation du nouveau chauffe-eau au centre aquatique et communautaire Surrey, au montant de 17 936 $, 10 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service datée du 4 février 2022. Et finalement, de procéder à l'acquisition du chauffe-eau et de l'échangeur à plaques inclus dans l'enveloppe budgétaire précitée au montant de 59 401 $, 83 sous, toutes taxes comprises, à l'entreprise Matco Limitée, conformément au règlement de gestion contractuelle RCM-89-2022, le tout sujet à l'entrée en vigueur du règlement RCM 89-82-2022, le 30 mars 2022.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4B, fourniture de services spécialisés en gestion de matières résiduelles.
Monsieur le maire, je propose de retenir les services professionnels de l'entreprise Conseil Inc. pour deux choses. Une caractérisation des matières résiduelles au montant de 18 863 et 5 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service du 15 mars 2022. Et deuxièmement, l'accompagnement stratégique pour l'optimisation de la performance en gestion de matières résiduelles pour un montant ne dépensant pas 114 975 toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service du 16 mars 2022.
Et j'appuie.
Merci. 4C, fourniture d'engrais pour le golfe d'Orval.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the financial assistance to Coopération de Golfe d'Orval for the renewal of its contract with Ferti Technology, Inc., for the total amount not exceeding $45,634.99, including tax, for the 2022 season.
J'appuie, monsieur.
Tu me mêles, là, M. Ridon.
J'appuie.
Pascal. 4E, service professionnel en architecture, ingénierie et gestion de projets de
4D.
surveillance.
4D avant.
Ah, 4D, oui.
Oui.
Excuse. Autorisation d'une signature d'un bail avec l'entreprise Limotour Montréal.
4D, je propose, Monsieur le maire, de ratifier le bail de location signé par le maire et la greffière en date du 3 mars 2022 avec l'entreprise Limotour Montréal, Inc. pour la location de l'espace situé au 750 avenue Avocat pour une période de 5 ans débutant le 1er avril 2022 selon les termes et conditions apparaissant au bail joint au dossier décisionnel 2022-03-17-2-46.
Je seconde.
Merci. 4E, service professionnel en architecture, ingénierie, gestion de projets et surveillance.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de retenir les services professionnels en architecture, ingénierie, gestion de projets et surveillance de travaux de l'entreprise ABCP, architecte, soumissionnaire conforme ayant obtenu le meilleur pointage suite à l'évaluation des soumissions reçues pour un montant global de 432 953 et 31 sous, toutes taxes comprises, dans le cadre du projet de construction d'une patinoire extérieure couverte et réfrigérée sur le terrain sud de l'Aréna d'Orval, conformément à sa soumission ouverte le 8 février 2022.
J'appuie.
Merci. Ah, on en a des projets cette année. 4F, travaux de sécurisation des échelles et du toit de l'hôtel de ville.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'émettre un bon de commande d'achat à l'entreprise Échafaud Plus, Inc., plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour la fourniture et l'installation de garde-corps et lignes d'avertissement pour la sécurisation du toit de l'hôtel de ville au montant global de 40 312 et 41 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à la soumission ouverte le 1er février 2022. D'approuver un montant de 1 500 $, toutes taxes comprises, pour réaliser des travaux d'ajustement des échelles existantes afin de les rendre compatibles et accessibles aux nouvelles installations.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4G, entretien de plateau sportif.
Mr. Mayor, I propose that we authorize the renewal for the first optional year of contract TP 2019-07 awarded to Technopark for park maintenance or maintenance of park and play areas across the city of Dorval for 2022 for a total amount of $172,716.91, all taxes included.
I second that.
Merci. 4H, fourniture et livraison de terreau.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the renewal for this first option year of contract TP 2019-07 awarded to Les Sols Champlain, Inc. for the supply and delivery of potting soil for annuals, perennial, planting beds and grassing and planting of trees for the 2022 season for a total amount of $37,357.96, tax included.
I second, Mr. Mayor.
Merci.
Just a small correction. I think it's supposed to be TP 2021-07. If you read in the preamble.
Tu as le... Oui, merci. 4I, ouverture, fermeture et opération de contrôle de la qualité d'eau dans les 3 centres aquatiques.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de renouveler pour la 2e année d'option le contrat TP 2020-11 accordé à l'entreprise Sodem Inc. pour des travaux d'ouverture, fermeture, entretien, opération et contrôle de la qualité des 3 centres aquatiques et d'un jardin d'eau pour 2022 au montant global de 201 687 et 99 sous. Imputation au poste budgétaire 02 701 41 52 534.
Je seconde.
Merci. 4G, service d'impression des publications.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande au montant de 49 970 et 43 sous, toutes taxes comprises, à l'entreprise Accent Impression Inc., soumissionnaire ayant déposé la plupart soumissions conformes suite à l'appel d'offres AG 2022-1 pour des services d'impression des communiqués du maire, des brochures culturelles, des brochures de la bibliothèque et des calendriers d'été pour 2022, le tout assorti d'une année d'option de renouvellement d'1 an.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4K, service professionnel dans le cadre de processus d'équité salariale.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser le paiement d'honoraires professionnels additionnels à la firme Global Ressources humaines, totalisant 9 501,25 sous, toutes taxes comprises pour les travaux et consultations effectués au cours de l'année 2021.
Je seconde.
Merci. 4L, signature d'une promesse d'achat. Acquisition du lot 1523601.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de ratifier la signature de la promesse d'achat par Monsieur Robert Bourbeau, directeur général, en date du 4 mars 2022, en vue de l'acquisition sans garantie de l'immeuble connu et désigné comme étant le lot 1523601 du cadastre du Québec, avec toutes les bâtisses qui s'y trouvent, et notamment le 12 avenue d'Alia pour la somme de 8 millions avant taxes. De mandater Mme Francine Pagé, notaire, aux fins de la préparation de l'acte de vente, à intervenir avec les sœurs de la congrégation de Notre-Dame et la cité de Dorval.
Je l'appuie et c'est pas toujours qu'on propose de dépenser 8 millions de dollars.
Mais c'est une très, très belle acquisition pour tous les citoyens de Dorval.
Oui, oui. C'est des sous, mais ça, c'est pour le futur.
C'est un
les
investissement pour les futures et futures générations et sécuriser un accès à l'eau, ça n'a pas de prix.
Exact. 4M, mise en service et opération de contrôleur pour les piscines extérieures.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise AESL Instrumentation Inc. pour des services de mise en service et opération des contrôleurs des piscines extérieures, ainsi que le remplacement des pièces et équipements pour la saison estivale 2022, au montant global de 22 049,81 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à ses soumissions des 1er février et 8 mars 2022.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4N, service d'analyse de conformité de l'eau de baignade pour les 3 centres.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise Eurofin Environex pour des services d'analyse de conformité de l'eau de baignade pour les 3 centres aquatiques extérieurs pour la saison 2022, pour un montant global ne dépassant pas 24 703,30 sous, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission du 9 mars 2022.
Je seconde.
Monsieur le maire.
Oh, vas-y, Paul.
Qui appuie? Paul?
Paul, oui.
M. Trudeau. 4O, non-renouvellement du contrat TP 2019-06.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose de ne pas renouveler pour le contrat TP 2019-06 pour la saison 2022 avec l'entreprise Terrassement Technique Sylvain Labrec, de lancer un nouvel appel d'offres pour la fourniture et l'installation de gazon en plaques pour la saison 2022 assortie d'une option de renouvellement.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 4P, implantation d'une solution VPN.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'émettre une commande d'achat à Prival Inc. pour l'achat de 100 licences de Fort Authenticator et le Forti Client nécessaires pour l'authentification à 2 facteurs et pour la fourniture de services spécialisés dans le cadre de l'implantation de la solution VPN à notre environnement informatique pour un montant global de 16 972,40 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre datée du 10 mars 2022, et d'approuver aussi une enveloppe budgétaire ne dépensant pas 10 heures pour des besoins additionnels qui se manifesteraient au cours de projet pour un montant maximal de 1 794 $, toutes taxes comprises.
Je seconde.
Merci. 4Q, études préliminaires et préparation de documents d'appel offre.
I just want to flag that this is, I believe, one of the most important things we're passing tonight with regards to both environmental consideration, but also providing sustainable access to water for our residents. So I'd like to propose that we retain the professional services of FQM for their services for an amount not exceeding $33,342.75, all taxes included, consistent with their bid submitted on February 15th, 2022, consistent with the bylaw governing contractual awarding of contracts, RCM 89-2022, which is coming into effect when the bylaw comes into effect of RCM 89-2022, March 30th, 2022.
I second.
Merci. Et pour noter que la FQM est la Fédération québécoise municipale. Des municipalités. Des municipalités, exact. 4R, fourniture et balises de pistes pour pistes cyclables.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'émettre une commande d'achat à l'entreprise Develotech Inc., le plus bas soumissionnaire conforme pour la fourniture de 200 balises pour pistes cyclables au montant global de 20 949,79 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à sa soumission du 14 mars 2022. Je pourrais rajouter une note à l'effet que l'utilisation de ces balises, pour commencer, se fera sur le bord du lac, à l'entrée est qui vient de la Chine, jusqu'à la rue Joubert, à l'endroit où le bord du lac est le plus large et qui incite de la vitesse inutile. Alors, au printemps, il y aura une nouvelle installation de balises et d'un bordard au milieu de la chaussée, de façon à rendre plus sécuritaire tout le coin de Boylan, Joubert et l'entrée à Dorval. Merci.
Je seconde.
Ça va être un beau projet. 4S, approbation d'ordre de changement pour l'agrandissement de l'Aréna Dorval.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it would be to authorize the change in order AM24 to AM37 to the contract awarded to MA2D Construction, Inc. for the amount not exceeding $109,263.63, tax included, as part of the expansion work of the Dorval Arena.
I second.
Thank you. And it's important to note that we are on track for opening up for the beginning of the hockey season.
Looking forward to it.
4T, service de gestion de projet, installation d'une génératrice au complexe aquatique.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de mandater Ecodonomus Construction, Inc. pour des services de gestion de projet pour les travaux d'installation d'une génératrice au complexe aquatique et sportif de Dorval pour un montant de 44 265,38 $, toutes taxes comprises, conformément à son offre de service datée du 7 mars 2022. Le tout sujet à l'entrée en vigueur du règlement de gestion contractuelle RCM-89-2022 le 30 mars 2022.
Je seconde.
Merci. 4U, service professionnel d'expertise en réseau pluvial.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser l'émission d'un bon de commande à l'entreprise GAME Consultant sans trancher pour une expertise sur le réseau pluvial à proximité du 2 cours Saint-Lawrence pour un montant de 24 719,62 $, toute taxe comprise, conformément à son offre de service professionnel datée du 11 mars 2022.
Je seconde. J'appuie.
Merci. 4V, accord en principe, proposition de bail d'occupation du lot 1524-170, Marina Pointe-Picard.
Je vais juste donner un peu d'explication parce que ça a été un ajout sur l'ordre du jour ce soir. Comme je crois que beaucoup de nos résidents comprennent, on est en attente pour obtenir, espérant éventuellement, le Pointe-Picard. Cependant, ça fait déjà quelques années et que ce terrain reste vide. Et c'est dommage parce que c'est du fun si nos résidents pourront l'accéder et en profiter. Donc, ce qu'on propose ce soir, c'est d'initier des discussions avec la Défense nationale pour voir si c'est possible de louer le terrain en attente qu'éventuellement, ça va nous appartenir. Ça ne garantit rien parce qu'il y a des travaux qui doivent se faire là-bas. Donc, on veut quand même s'assurer que si on loue, ça va être pour que les résidents puissent en profiter. Mais quand même, je crois que le conseil, on est tous d'accord qu'il faut prendre des démarches parce que sinon, ça peut prendre d'autres années que ça reste sans être utilisé. Donc, avec cette préambule, je voudrais proposer que le conseil municipal de la cité d'Orwell prend acte de la proposition d'entente d'occupation du site de la Marina Pointe-Picard soumise par le ministère de la Défense nationale, telle que décrite dans les endroits du 2 février et du 18 mars 2022, et s'engage à procéder à une analyse approfondie de la dite proposition d'entente aux fins d'explorer cette option, le temps que l'ensemble des étapes permettant l'acquisition du site ne puissent être complétées.
Je seconde.
Merci. Finances et administration, 5A, autorisation de dépenses de réclamation.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser les paiements complets et définitifs de la réclamation décrite au rapport de la greffière pour une période du 17 février au 16 mars 2022 et totalisant 50 $ non taxables.
Je seconde.
Merci. 5B, dépôt de la liste de dépenses autorisées. D'autres questions? Merci. 5C, approbation des virements budgétaires. Monsieur Trudeau.
Oui, je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser les virements au poste budgétaire tel que décrit au dossier décisionnel 2022-03-17042. Ces virements, il y en a 6 pour l'année courante 2022 et il y en a un majeur pour l'exercice 2021 qui fait suite à la préparation des états financiers avec l'arrivée des auditeurs externes à la cité de Dorval. Et c'est des virements qui sont nécessaires à chaque année de façon à ce que les livres reflètent la façon dont Québec veut recevoir les états financiers de la ville.
J'appuie.
Merci. 5D, autorisation de dépenses, congrès annuel de la FQM.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire...
FCM, excuse, FCM.
Je recommence. Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser le maire et les conseillers à participer au congrès annuel et au salon professionnel de la FCM qui se tiendra à Regina, Saskatchewan, du 2 juin au 5 juin 2022. D'autoriser le trésorier à leur rembourser le coût d'inscription au montant de 939,75 $, toutes taxes comprises chacun, ainsi que les frais de transport, d'hébergement et autres coûts liés à leur participation sur présentation de pièces justificatives.
J'appuie.
Merci. Oui, 5 programme de subvention pour les maisons lézardées.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, would be to approve the reimbursement of the subsidy of $12,500 to the owner of 628 Wright Crescent for the work carried out under the subsidy program for the homes with crack foundations.
I'll second the motion.
5F, une autre subvention, programme de subvention de maisons lézardées.
Ce fois-ci, non.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'approuver le remboursement d'une subvention de 12 500 $ au propriétaire du 680 avenue Hyde Park pour des travaux effectués dans le cadre du programme de subvention des maisons Lazardé.
Je seconde.
Merci. 5G, programme de subvention pour revitalisation des façades et enseignes.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour autoriser le remboursement d'une subvention de 2 069,55 $ à l'entreprise Café Gourmet située au 1564 chemin Erin pour l'installation d'une nouvelle enseigne détachée dans le cadre du programme d'aide financier pour la revitalisation des façades et des enseignes commerciales et l'accessibilité au commerce aux personnes handicapées.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 5H, dons et subscriptions.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'autoriser une assistance financière aux organismes qui suivent. Royal Canadian Legion, au montant de 9 000 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 590 00 996. Le Club philatélique du Lakeshore, au montant de 300 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 110 00 340. La Société canadienne du cancer, au montant de 250 $ à imputer au poste budgétaire 02 590 00 996.
J'appuie.
Merci. On est très content de supporter la Légion qui fait beaucoup pour nous dans la ville de Dorval. Pour le club oh, je peux pas dire ça. Merci. Eux autres, ils vont avoir un week-end au centre communautaire, je crois en juin, mais on va publier ça sur notre site web. Mais si vous aimez les thèmes, là, c'est la place à visiter. 5I, autorisation de vente de biens, meubles et matériel roulant et accessoires usagés.
Monsieur le maire, je propose d'autoriser la vente des biens énumérés au dossier décisionnel 2021-12-16975 à la suite des 2 appels d'offres lancés par le Centre d'acquisition gouvernementale aux adjudicateurs et aux montants tels qu'ils apparaissent au document joint au présent dossier décisionnel. Et je propose d'autoriser la chef de section ressources matérielles à prendre les mesures requises et à signer tout document requis pour donner effet à la présente résolution.
J'appuie. Vas-y.
Madame Duchâtel. 5G, c'est le dépôt de rapport annuel 2021 du trésorier d'élection. Personne n'a des questions? Merci. Urbanisme. Rapport comparatif et liste de permis pour février 2022. Monsieur Lesage. Oh, c'est un rapport. Oui. Dépôt du procès verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme le 14 mars 2022. C'est un dépôt. 6C, approbation des plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturelle. Recommandation du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 14 mars 2022.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ça serait approuver les plans et les documents associés au projet suivant. Le 7 place Kathleen Lane, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale, recommandé majoritairement. Le 20 place Kathleen Lane, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale, recommandé majoritairement. Le 170 avenue Allard, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale, non recommandé. Le 310 avenue Sterling, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale non recommandée. Le 165 avenue Saint-Louis, construction d'une habitation unifamiliale recommandée unanimement. Le 135 Crescent McNichols, agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale recommandée unanimement. Le 140 Neptune, agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale recommandé majoritairement. Le 327 avenue Cortland, agrandissement d'une habitation unifamiliale recommandé majoritairement. Le 667 chemin bord du lac, Rénovation d'un bâtiment commercial recommandé unanimement. Le 265 boulevard Strathmore, demande de régularisation non recommandée. Le 394 chemin bord du lac, projet d'affichage non recommandé. Le 574 boulevard Pine Beach, construction d'un garage détaché recommandé majoritairement.
Je seconde.
Merci. Monsieur Lesage, le 6D, signature des documents cadastraux.
Oui, Monsieur le maire, ce serait pour autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité de Dorval les documents cadastraux relatifs au remplacement du lot 1519612 du cadastre du Québec, autoriser la vente sans garantie légale du futur lot 1500004 du cadastre du Québec d'une superficie de 114,4 mètres carrés à Mme Gulia Riccio et M. Denver Kent Floyd, propriétaires du lot 1519905 situé au 195 avenue Clément, adjacent au lot à acquérir pour le montant de 22 880 plus taxes applicables, d'autoriser le maire et la greffière à signer pour et au nom de la cité de Dorval l'acte de vente et intervenir en tout autre document donnant effet à la présente résolution.
Merci, M. Lesage. Et pour noter ici que ça, le résident achète un morceau de terrain à côté de lui, qui était une emprise de la ville, et il achète avec la stipulation que le terrain est non construisible. Donc, il ne peut pas agrandir sa maison sur ce terrain-là.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Excellent, merci.
OK, vas-y.
7A, demande d'appui de la Sûreté de Québec.
So just context, all the cities of the West Island have been asked, the West Island along the Highway 20 been asked to support a similar motion, speaking to both speeding on Highway 20, but also the consequence of speeding, both safety-wise and also the elevated sound that's produced by that. So that's why we're proposing and hopefully passing this motion tonight. So I propose that we ask at Sûreté du Québec to increase substantially their presence on Highway 20 to ensure that the speed limit is respected, to ask Sûreté du Québec to particularly monitor for vehicles that have been modified so that the maximum decibels that are permitted by law are not exceeded by such vehicles, to regularly share the number and nature of tickets issued along this stretch of highway, and that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to the following individuals. Ministère de la Sécurité publique, Madame Geneviève Guibault, the Director General of Sûreté de Québec, Madame Joanne Beausoleil, the mayors of the cities of Saint-Anne de Bellevue, Baderfay, Beaconsfield, and Pointe-Claire, aux députés de Jacques-Cartier, M. Gregory Kelly, et aux députés de Marquette, M. Enrico Ciccone.
I second that.
Merci. Je pense que les villes de Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue, Baderfay et Pointe-Claire ont fait la même chose. Et Beaconsfield, c'est leur résolution. 7B, appui au Collège Dawson.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know if, well, you can. I don't know if we need a lot of background for this one.
No.
Um,
Just read the resolution.
Yeah. I propose that the City of Dorval flags to the Prime Minister of Quebec its incredible disappointment and disapproval with regards to the government's decision to cancel the capital investment project at Dawson College, and that the City of Dorval flags the significance and importance of this dossier with regards to providing equitable and appropriate training to students at that college, given the existing space restrictions.
I second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. 7D, solidarité au peuple. C? Oh, 7C. Reconduction de la politique de développement des collections de bibliothèques de Dorval.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de reconduire la politique de développement des collections jointes au dossier décisionnel 2022-03-17267, incluant les 2 précisions décrites au dossier décisionnel 222-03-17267.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 7D, solidarité au peuple ukrainien.
Monsieur le maire, je propose que la Cité d'Orval condamne avec la plus grande fermeté l'invasion de l'Ukraine par la Russie, que la Cité joigne sa voix au concert des nations pour rappeler à la Russie de mettre fin à son agression et à retirer toutes ses forces de l'Ukraine et à régler ses différences par la voie de la diplomatie. Que la Cité demande au gouvernement du Canada de prendre toutes les mesures nécessaires pour assurer la Russie à l'abandon, pour amener la Russie à l'abandon de son attitude belliqueuse. Que la Cité invite ses citoyens à participer à l'effort de la solidarité envers le peuple ukrainien. Que la Cité déclare son intérêt à contribuer à cet effort collectif et humanitaire et invite tous les groupes et intervenants à se mobiliser pour organiser l'accueil de ces personnes réfugiées sur notre territoire. Que copie de cette résolution soit envoyée au Premier ministre du Canada, M. Justin Trudeau, à la ministre des Affaires étrangères, Mme Mélanie Joly, au Premier ministre du Québec, M. François Legault, à l'ambassade de la République d'Ukraine, à l'ambassade de la Fédération de la Russie, à la Fédération québécoise des municipalités et aux médias régionaux et nationaux.
Je seconde.
Merci, and hopefully, for those remaining in the room tonight, it's getting late. You noticed that the Ukrainian flag was flying on the flagpole outside the community center and has been for the last 2 weeks, and will continue to fly indefinitely. 8A, confirmation de permanence d'un préposé à l'assistance communautaire.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, de confirmer, à compter du 20 mars 2022, la nomination permanente de Mme Maude Lemonnier-Lalonde au poste de préposé à l'assistance communautaire au service des affaires publiques et au greffe. Division d'assistance communautaire.
J'appuie, Monsieur le maire.
Merci. 8B, promotion au poste de chef de division affaires juridiques et greffière adjoint.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, que... Je propose, Monsieur le maire, que Mme Julia Leventine soit promue au poste de chef de division affaires juridiques et greffière adjointe à compter du 18 avril 2022, aux conditions stimulées à sa lettre de confirmation d'embauche signée par le directeur général en date du 3 mars 2022. Qu'elle soit désignée responsable de l'accès à l'information conformément à l'article 8 de la loi sur l'accès aux documents publics et à la protection des renseignements personnels, chapitre A-2.1, et que la division des ressources humaines soit autorisée à modifier le titre du poste à l'organigramme du service des affaires publiques et du greffe. Alors, félicitations.
Et j'appuie. Ouais. On appuie.
On appuie.
On appuie.
Et félicitations, Julia.
8C, autorisation de congédiement.
Je propose, Monsieur le maire, d'entériner les recommandations du directeur général à l'effet de procéder au congédiement de l'employé numéro 56 en date du 22 mars 2022.
Je seconde.
Merci. Et je crois que... C'est tout.
Le point 8D a été retiré.
Monsieur Van Royce avait quelque chose, je pense. Hein?
Pour autre nouvelle, c'est dommage que c'est si tard le soir, mais peut-être les gens écoutent encore. Comme M. Doré a mentionné tout à l'heure, nous sommes en train de redévelopper notre comité de l'environnement. And so, as the city is currently reviewing and revising its Dorval Environment Committee, there's currently a posting inviting residents to apply for a position on the committee or several subcommittees that we've adopted. So applications are being received up to April 3rd, after which point selection will take place. So we'd like to encourage anyone who's passionate about the environment ou des Dorvalois, Dorvaloises qui ont des idées comment on peut réduire notre impact, notre empreinte carbone, de soumettre leur candidature. Et s'ils ont des questions, n'hésitez pas de contacter le comité d'environnement par courriel. Espérant qu'on a beaucoup de soumissions, d'applications.
And with that, I would like to... Oui?
Peux-tu envoyer un shoot-out à 2 personnes de Dorval, à 2 citoyens de Dorval?
Oui.
J'aimerais féliciter Lucas Lawton, qui est maintenant membre de la troupe Lord of the Dance, et Mademoiselle Maya Holt, qui a battu 2 records québécois aux 50 mètres et aux 100 mètres brasse.
Très bonne nouvelle. Excellent. Et bon, merci à tout le monde.
Je propose de la levée de l'Assemblée, Monsieur le maire.
Merci.
Oui, j'appuie.
On va demander l'assistance greffière de nous planer un meeting un petit peu plus court pour le mois prochain, s'il vous plaît.
Espérant que ça va être votre plus longue, là.
Et avec ça, merci et bonne soirée.